Have you ever noticed that when you mess up, I mean really mess up, the first voice you hear in your head is your own, and it's not kind. It tells you you're not good enough, you should have tried harder. You always do this. And here's the thing, you believe that voice. You think it's the voice that's going to push you to do better next time? But what if I told you that voice is actually the thing holding you back? Welcome to Mind Decoded. I'm Dr. Ann.
And I'm Zach. Dr. Ann, I have to say, you just described my internal monologue after I miss a deadline or say something stupid in a meeting. That voice is relentless, and I've always told myself it's what keeps me sharp.
That is such a common belief. We have this cultural story that being hard on ourselves is the path to success. If we're not criticizing ourselves, we'll get lazy, we'll settle for mediocrity. And for a lot of people, that voice becomes the soundtrack of everyday life.
So you're saying that voice is not my friend?
I'm saying it might be the worst roommate you've ever had. And today we're going to talk about why. Today's concept is called self-compassion. It comes from the research of psychologist Kristin Neff, who has spent over 2 decades studying this question, and what she found might completely change how you talk to yourself after a mistake.
Okay, I'm intrigued. But first, when you say self-compassion, I think I know what that means, but I want to make sure I'm not getting it wrong. Because to me, self-compassion sounds like letting yourself off the hook. Like saying, oh, it's fine that I messed up, no big deal.
That is exactly the assumption most people have. And it's the reason self-compassion is so misunderstood. Let me give you a better definition. Kristin Neff defines self-compassion as having 3 components. The first is self-kindness, being warm and understanding toward yourself when you suffer or fail, rather than ignoring the pain or criticizing yourself. The second is common humanity, recognizing that suffering and personal failure are part of the shared human experience. It's not something that only happens to you. And the third is mindfulness, holding your painful thoughts and emotions in balanced awareness rather than over-identifying with them.
Okay, that's a lot. Let me try to feel into this. Self-kindness, that's like, instead of saying, you idiot, you always do this, you say something softer. Common humanity, that's like remembering everyone messes up. It's not just me. And mindfulness, that's like noticing the feeling without drowning in it.
Exactly. And here's the piece that blew my mind when I first read Neff's work. Self-compassion is not self-esteem. They sound similar, but they're fundamentally different. Self-esteem is about evaluation, judging yourself positively compared to others. It's I'm good, I'm better than average, I'm valuable. Self-compassion is not about evaluation at all. It's about relating to yourself with kindness, especially when you're struggling. And this difference matters for a very important reason.
I bet. Because self-esteem can be fragile. One bad day and it crumbles.
Exactly right. Research shows that self-compassion provides the emotional safety needed for real growth. When you're not busy defending your ego, you can actually see your mistakes clearly and learn from them. Neff studies show that people higher in self-compassion are more likely to take responsibility for their mistakes, more motivated to improve, and less likely to ruminate or get stuck in shame spirals.
Wait. So the people who are kind to themselves after they mess up actually do better next time? That feels backwards. I've always thought you need the sting to motivate you.
And that's the myth. Neff's research shows that self-criticism actually undermines motivation. Think about it. When you mess up and the inner critic kicks in, what happens next? Do you feel energized and ready to try again?
No. I usually feel worse, and then I procrastinate because I'm afraid of failing again. And then I feel worse about procrastinating. It's a spiral.
Exactly. Self-criticism triggers the threat response system in your brain. It puts you in a state of defensiveness and anxiety. Your brain interprets the criticism as a threat, even when it's coming from you. That shuts down the very parts of your brain you need for learning and growth. Self-compassion, on the other hand, triggers the caregiving system. It activates the same neural pathways that get activated when you comfort a friend. It releases oxytocin. It lowers cortisol. It puts your brain in a state where it can actually process feedback instead of just feeling attacked.
That is wild. So when I'm hard on myself, I'm essentially making myself less capable of learning.
You are. And the irony is, most people double down on self-criticism because they think it's working. They think if I stop criticizing myself, I'll have no discipline. But Neff's research shows the opposite pattern. In one study, she and her team looked at people who had recently failed an important exam. The ones who responded with self-compassion, they studied more, they set higher goals for themselves, and they actually performed better on the next test.
I need to sit with this for a second. So you're telling me that the voice I've been treating like a drill sergeant, the one I thought was the reason I push myself, is actually making me less effective?
That's what the research suggests. And here's where it gets even more interesting. Neff has done a lot of work comparing self-compassion to self-esteem, and she found that self-compassion provides all the benefits of high self-esteem, like lower anxiety and depression, without the downsides. Self-esteem can be tied to narcissism, social comparison, and a fragile ego that needs constant validation. Self-compassion doesn't need that. It doesn't depend on being better than anyone else.
So self-esteem is like I'm the best and therefore I feel good. And self-compassion is like I'm human, I make mistakes, and I deserve kindness anyway.
Perfectly said. And that leads us to the big question. How do you actually practice self-compassion? Because knowing the research is one thing. Actually changing the way you talk to yourself after a lifetime of self-criticism, that's the real work.
I was just about to ask that. My inner critic has been running the show for 30 years. How do I even start?
Let me walk you through a practice that Neff has developed. It's simple, but it requires intentionality. The next time you catch yourself being harsh, maybe you miss a deadline, say something awkward, or just feel like you failed, stop. Literally pause, and then say 3 things to yourself. First, you acknowledge the pain. You say, this is hard, just that. Not I'm terrible, just this is hard.
Okay, that feels different. It's stating the fact of the pain, not judging myself for it.
Exactly. Second, you remind yourself of common humanity. You say other people feel this way too. Because when we shame ourselves, we feel completely alone. We think nobody else has ever failed like this. But that's not true. Pain is part of being human.
Everyone messes up. Everyone feels stupid sometimes. Right, that helps.
And third, you offer yourself a gesture of kindness. This can be as simple as putting your hand on your heart or saying, may I be kind to myself in this moment, something that activates that caregiving response.
Hand on the heart? That sounds a little, I don't know, new age?
It does, and I had the same reaction when I first learned about it. But there's actually research on this. Physical touch, even your own touch, releases oxytocin. It calms the nervous system. You can also just say the words. What matters is the intention.
So, I'm gonna try this. Next time I mess up, I'm gonna pause, say, this is hard, then everyone feels this way, and then put my hand on my heart. Okay, I'm gonna try.
And look, I want you to notice something. When you say this is hard, how does it feel compared to what you usually say to yourself?
Honestly, it feels lighter. Like I'm not bracing myself for a fight.
That lightness is the signal. That's your brain shifting from threat response to caregiving. And in that state, you can actually learn. You can ask yourself, what can I do differently next time? Without the inner critic drowning out the answer.
That makes so much sense, because when I'm in critic mode, I can't even hear the question. I'm too busy hating myself.
Exactly. And that brings us to the deeper practical insight. Self-compassion isn't about avoiding self-improvement. It's about creating the conditions for genuine improvement. Neff has found that self-compassionate people are more likely to seek feedback, to learn from failure, and to persist after setbacks. They also have healthier relationships because they don't need constant reassurance and they're more able to forgive others.
That's a lot of benefits. But I have a question. What if I feel like I don't deserve kindness? Like, what if I really messed up? Something serious.
That's one of the most important questions you can ask. And here's what I would say. The research shows that self-compassion is most crucial in the moments when you feel least deserving of it, because those are the moments when shame is the loudest. And shame is the thing that keeps you stuck. It says, you are bad. Self-compassion says, you are human. You made a mistake. You can learn.
So it's not about excusing the mistake. It's about creating the space to actually deal with it.
Yes. Think of it this way. If a close friend came to you and said, I messed up badly, I feel terrible, would you yell at them? Would you tell them they're a failure? Or would you put your hand on their shoulder and say, I'm sorry, you're hurting? What can you learn from this?
I would never yell at a friend. I would comfort them and help them think it through.
Then why do you talk to yourself differently? That's the core question, and it's one every single one of us has to answer.
Wow, that hit me. That really hit me.
I know it's counterintuitive. I had the exact same moment of recognition when I first studied this. And one more piece of research to ground this in science. Neff and a colleague published a study in 2007 that looked at how self-compassion relates to life satisfaction. They found that self-compassion was a stronger predictor of well-being than self-esteem was. Across every measure, happiness, optimism, emotional resilience, self-compassion was the better predictor.
So this isn't just a nice idea. It's something that actually works.
It works, and it changes the way you relate to yourself over time. It's not about being perfect, it's about being human.
Okay, I'm fully on board, and I want to try it. But I need something concrete. A single sentence I can tell myself the next time I feel that sting of failure.
Here's one. It's from Neff's work. Next time you catch yourself being harsh, say, "This is a moment of suffering. Suffering is part of life. May I be kind to myself." You can adapt it however you want, but the three components are there: mindfulness of the pain, common humanity, and self-kindness.
This is a moment of suffering. Suffering is part of life. May I be kind to myself. I'm going to memorize that. I think I need it.
And you know what? If you don't believe it the first time, that's normal. Your brain has years of habit to unlearn. But every time you say it, you're building a new neural pathway. You're training yourself to respond differently.
So if I have to say it 50 times before it feels real, that's fine.
That's exactly right. And eventually, the inner critic starts to quiet down. Not because you've silenced it, but because you've given your brain a better option.
Honestly, that's beautiful, and I think a lot of people need to hear this. I know I did.
Before we wrap up, I want to offer one more thought. The goal isn't to eliminate self-criticism entirely. That would be impossible. Self-criticism is a survival instinct. It's your brain trying to protect you from being rejected by the group. The goal is to recognize it when it shows up and to respond with something more helpful.
So it's not about fighting the inner critic. It's about making room for something kinder.
Yes. And when you do that, you're not becoming weaker. You're becoming stronger in a way that actually supports growth.
Dr. Ann, I think we just gave everyone, including me, permission to be a little gentler with ourselves. And I think I needed that today.
We all need it, every day. And that's the truth behind the science.
If you want more episodes that make you see yourself a little more clearly and a little more kindly, subscribe to Mind Decoded, new episodes every day. And Dr. Ann, I'll see you next time for another psychological mystery.
See you soon. Until then, be kind to yourself. You're doing better than you think.